that it may mean that almost like what you taught in grad school, that if you're going to do research and you want to try to validate or at least find out what the most valid source of information is, or type of information is, that you want to triangulate. You want to consult many different sources to find out where there are convergences and where there are differences. And then, you can start to, for yourself, determine what may be more valid or truer than others. So I think what I'm saying is that it's a little bit harder today, but it's not impossible. But it may mean it's more work on both the journalist side to make sure that they are working as much as possible to present a balanced point of view, but also on the media consumer end, that it may mean that you have to consult more than one source to find out, okay, so they say this over here and then this was said over there, so where does it look like, or if they're totally out to breakfast on each end of the spectrum, there's another source that comes down the middle, and then maybe you can see where there are where the information seems to congeal and where it's just out to lunch. So there.
All right. All right. Now, with the advent of internet and media creation becoming more and more easy for people, because, like you said, with a smartphone, you are able to do a lot of things because the smartphone that we are having today, they are becoming more and more powerful.
Yes, they are.
The memory size are beginning to get high. The quality of images and the audio recording are beginning to get more interesting. So people, the limitation is beginning to get less and less. So more and more can actually be done. Does that mean that we are going to require more of citizen journalism? Okay, what I mean is that where it become he who sees something should say something instead of expecting, where I see something but I'm not a professional, I cannot say anything or I cannot report about it. Let me wait for the professional journalist to come and say it. And just to add to that, what if the information you have is not the one that the mainstream might like to consume, but is the case, but it's in public, it's in the public interest, it's for the interest of the public. What do you do then?
Well, again, I think they obviously need to follow the standards of journalism. um, they have the opportunity and the ability to not only gather the information, but now here's the thing: there's a difference between quote unquote breaking news, literally news that's happening right in front of you at the time, and you don't have all of the background information, or access to that because you're in the middle of an event. Okay. So if it's breaking, then really you can report on what is happening at that time. But hopefully, in once the breaking situation has ended or as it evolves, you then will be able to go back or go, further into what caused this. For instance, um, when January 6th happened, um, and we then in Washington D.C. were told. I mean, I've lived here more than 30 years, and we were told, hey, this demonstration may happen, or this rally. It could get violent, it could not. In fact, it wasn't even violence. It was just, this is going to be happening down on the mall. There will be a rally. The president will be there, and you may want to stay away from that area because we don't know what's going to happen. As it unfolded, and the craziness that happened at the Capitol went down, journalists who were there in the midst of that event could report on what was happening from their vantage point right then. So that's valid. But you couldn't then make conclusions about the response or lack thereof from a law enforcement side. You couldn't make conclusions about the response or lack thereof unless you had personal access to that of what was happening in the White House. Um, that was those kinds of details were things that you would have to report on after the fact. Once you could really say, okay, what was happening in the White House during this whole January 6th riot, essentially. And then if you try to do it then, it's speculation, and that's just your opinion. That's not fact. I mean, it's relative fact, but it's not something that can be verified until you have really the time and the research to back up what you then were able to find after the fact. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but
Yeah, yeah, you answered it. You
that's
answered it. It's very clear. It's not even a very simple question. I understand it. Of course, you need a bit of time to expand on that, but don't worry. That's cool. That's cool enough. Yeah, I
Oh,
want to
you know
thank.
what? I'll also say that
Yeah.
September 11th. So on September 11th, when after the planes had flown into the towers in New York, I was actually on my way to work here at Howard, and excuse me. One of the things that happened when I got to school, I'm only a few minutes away from the campus. And as I was pulling into the driveway, I saw this smoke billowing off in the distance. And so I got out of my car and I said, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And that's when the plane hit the Pentagon. So now we're rushing into the building because we have students who are they're from all over. They're from out of the country, they're from all over the country. And clearly, we have a lot of New Yorkers since DC is not that far. So, we run into the building and folks are it's pandemonium. Nobody knows what's going on. And then there are all these rumors that, oh, yeah, it went into the Pentagon. And now there's another plane heading towards the Capitol or the White House. We kind of went back and forth. Or that there was a bomb at some of the office buildings downtown, which was not true. But what happened was, traffic, folks who work downtown or work near the Capitol and the White House, there was this panic, uh, understandably, as folks are trying to get away from these buildings and move towards home. And what would normally take people maybe a few minutes, 15, 20 minutes to get out of the main part of the city took hours. So if you're going to report on what is going on at the time, you have to then just report on what is in fact happening that you can see as a reporter. The rumors about another plane, bombs, traffic snarl, you have to take that, if not with a grain of salt, you have to make sure that if you're going to report that, you say speculation as opposed to we hear that there are reports of bombing in downtown DC or whatever is happening there. But you can say with certainty that traffic you know is snarled up or traffic is congested. Here are some of the ways based on, and then again, that's on the reporter to do the work, that based on actual reports from police, that you can, if you're trying to move through the city, here are some of the routes that you can take to get out. Or here's what's happening over in the Pentagon, because you can then, you either have people there who can call in and say, this is what we see, here are some of the pictures or video from that. So it really does mean that, I'm not saying breaking news is not valid. It is. But it is by nature of the fact that you're reporting on something that is happening at the time with conditions changing minute by minute, then you have to be really, really careful about what you say. And if it's speculation or rumor, you either want to eliminate the rumor until you can confirm it, not report on the rumor until you confirm it, or just wait until it is completed and say, there's speculation that such and such is happening. But even that is dangerous because people won't hear speculation. They'll hear bombing or another plane is hit and whatever. And that may not be the case. And it just increases anxiety and panic.